Hello, MSOE fans, and welcome to the Raider Report, where we sit down with MSOE coaches to discuss all things Raider athletics, from game reactions to recruiting news and everything in between. The Raider Report has all the behind-the-scenes details and news you want. Our guest this week is head coach of women's golf, Kevin Hurd.
All right, and at this time, I am joined by the first person I feel like I can call a recurring guest. 3 times on the program, head coach of women's golf, Kevin Hurd.
You got to be sick of me.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, if this is a radio show, I'm definitely a recurring guest, and I call in on a weekly basis. It seems like. So here we are again.
No more first time, long time. So, Coach, welcome back. You're switching hats for this one as we talk women's golf this time around. Is it nice being outdoors for a change?
I love the indoor sports because you don't have to worry about weather.
That's
right?
true. Dang.
So weather outside is a little bit of a variable, but women's golf, it's a nice change of pace for me, and we'll obviously talk about that in a second. But yeah, being outdoors is nice. Getting out, walking around, rather than being cooped up inside during hoop season. But it's a lot of fun, so we're looking forward to it this spring.
Yeah, quite a 180 going from men's hoops to women's golf. The women's golf program was revived at MSOE in 21-22. Talk to me a little bit about the genesis of that and how things lined up with you in your timeline here at MSOE.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was brought here to MSOE assistant men's basketball, which was obviously, I would say, not the most appealing. That's a bad way to phrase it, but that was just a thing I was interested in first, right? I was a college basketball player. But I would say, at least now in my retired days, quote unquote here, golf has really been a passion of mine. So to be able to combine the two was really attractive for me. And the other part was starting a brand new program. That seemed really fun to me too, building something organically from the ground up. When I used to play video games back in the day, sports video games, I was always the guy that I never wanted to play the games. I just wanted to run the team. I never wanted to do anything like that. I just wanted to run the team. And so the ability to build up a program basically from scratch, as much work as that sounds like and how difficult that might be, that was really, really appealing for me. So it's been more fun than work, for sure.
For sure. And just to touch on that a little bit. Talk to me a little bit, compare and contrast kind of the recruiting you have to do with men's basketball. You're going on the road a lot, very demanding, the whole AAU circuit, social media. There's a lot. It's multifaceted when it comes to men's basketball, especially in today's day and age. Whereas now you're going to the women's golf side from the ground up. What's that been like?
Yes, specifically at MSOE, I'd say with our academics, the things that we offer, we're a little bit more selective as far as majors go. I would say on the female side, there's been a lot more organization of what they want. Golf is also kind of a black and white game, right? What do you shoot? What do you shoot compared to others? And so basketball, I'd say, is a little bit more subjective because there's a lot more factors involved. What's your team like? Maybe you're recruiting a player on a team that has multiple Division I players on it. Well, his stats aren't going to be as good. Well, you got to go see him play to see what you think of him. In golf, it's a little bit harder to run around and see everybody because maybe there's not multiple players at one event like there is for basketball maybe in the summer. Or, like I said, our academics, they attract people from across the country. It's just hard to see people and go everywhere. So I would say from that perspective, it's obviously a lot different. There's a little bit more subjectivity to the basketball side than there is golf. But I'd like to think that we've done a pretty good job so far.
For sure, Coach. Super insightful. Thank you for that. Talk to me a little bit about your history in golfing. When did you first start really playing the game? I know I first picked up clubs around elementary school, took a couple lessons, but it wasn't until I got out of high school that I actually started playing a full course. So talk to me.
Yeah, well, if you've been a consistent listener to this podcast, you know that I'm more of a basketball person. So, but with golf, when I was a young kid in Portage, Wisconsin, there was a kind of a youth like summer league, and so I was playing, I think it was like 2-3 times a week, and it wasn't even just a full round. It was you'd go out, hit some balls, maybe there'd be some instruction, and then you'd play 2, 3, 4 holes depending on what time allowed. And so that was kind of my first experience with golf. And so, like I mentioned, just as I've gotten older and transitioning out of being a high level competitive basketball player, like you still need that competitive edge. And golf is an awesome test of mental focus. And so I really appreciate that side of the game. And I know we'll talk about that coming up, but that was kind of my history with golf. And I really started getting serious about it actually during COVID. So when COVID, there was a lockdown, you weren't out doing things. I actually sat in my apartment and kind of retooled my swing, basically. Sure. And I got a lot better. And obviously COVID was a time where golf was pretty much the only thing that you could do. So that's what everybody was doing. So just during that time, I mean, I love details. I love learning new things. And like I said, I basically retooled my swing in my apartment. I'm not going to act like I'm a pro or anything like that, but it really elevated my game. And it just helped me kind of dive into the details. And oddly enough, the next job that I got after that was being a golf coach. So those two things kind of lined up from there.
Again, golf is one of those weird sports where COVID was almost like good for it. It really resulted in almost like a popularity boom for the sport because you couldn't play, traditional ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit. Let's compare and contrast basketball and golf again. The pace and demeanor of these games are entirely different.
Yes.
You're not really walking up and down a sideline. It's much quieter. It's completely different atmospheres. What's your coaching approach like? How much of a role do you have? I'm assuming it's not nearly as profound as a basketball game.
Yeah, so, I mean, your question here as it reads is how is it different? I would say you're still working with athletes on a one-on-one basis, but with golf, not only do you have, golf is unique, you have the individual piece mixed in with the team, right? And in basketball, it is always about the team. What can we do to help us win? Your records are reflected, wins, losses. Everybody gets those wins, everybody gets those losses, right? And in golf, there's different things. You can do match play where there's individual wins, losses, there's team stroke play, all that type of stuff. So there is a lot of those differences there, but obviously the pace, that's completely different. But the similarities are, from a mental perspective, there's a lot of similarities between basketball and golf. And I think that's why I enjoy them so much. Golf, it's a little bit more pressure packed, right? Because you hit a shot, you wait 2-3 minutes to walk up, you got to hit another. And in that, there's so much going on. All right. You and I are playing together. We both hit a drive, hopefully both of us in the fairway, right? And you can be 8-10 yards away from me and you have a completely different shot than what I have, right? There's the lie's different. What's the weather doing? Is it wet? Because that would affect the ground of where you're hitting the ball on. Like I said, are you on a hill? Are you not? Is there something in front of you? Whatever. There's so many things going on. And so I'd say golf is very similar to basketball in that we talk a lot about the mental part of the game, but golf is just so much slowed down compared to basketball. But just like basketball, everything matters, right? And there's so many things that you have to account for. So it is a change of pace, maybe on the slower side, but the mental part, it's almost, one could make the argument that it's a lot more intense maybe than basketball.
I was just about to make that argument myself, because in basketball, almost there's not enough time to think. Whereas golf, it's quite the opposite. It's too much time to think.
Yeah,
you're prone to overthinking when you're, maybe that's wrong. I need to do this instead.
100%.
You can second guess yourself a lot.
But both sports require that muscle memory, that repetition, right? You're working on something in basketball. You're developing a skill. Let's just say shooting a three-pointer, right? In order to get better, you have to do that a lot in a gym to improve. On golf, it's the exact same thing. We're trying to work 100 yards and in. You're working off the tee, on the green, whatever it is. So there's a lot of you do a lot of things in basketball, you do a lot of things in golf. And in order to get better, you have to practice.
For sure. And one difference here we have with golf is the structure of the season itself. You do a few events in the beginning of the year around September. Then you have the long break. You take off, you go do basketball. Right. The athletes do their own thing. Yeah. And then you kind of rendezvous back in the spring around March, April and get back into it. Is it weird for you to stop and shift gears during the season? And do you think, as a former college athlete, do you think it's odd for the athletes?
Yeah, break. That's a really funny word that you use there. I don't know what that is. But yeah, I guess the mid-season break that I get from golf. But our fall season is our primary season. So our conference championship is in the fall.
Okay.
And if you're winning that, you're playing in the national tournament, which is in the spring. So that's obviously our goal moving forward. So I would say the fall is a little bit more intensive because the weather is nicer and there's a little less guessing as to what you're going to be doing. You know you're going to have these tournaments. Obviously, weather can pop up and you can reschedule some things and go from there. But our fall season, we're coming in before school starts, and we're really trying to get better, play golf, get reps, get in a good space before we play in our first event. And then you're trying to build momentum, figure out what combinations work heading into the conference championship. Conference championship, you get 6 golfers. You're trying to put the best 6 out there to give you the best result. And so that fall is really intensive. And then the spring, I would say if you're not playing in the national tournament, you're kind of using that as a springboard to the next season.
Sure.
Okay, let's see what we did in the fall. And depending on what players have done in the past in high school, they haven't maybe played golf year round. In high school, maybe it's just the fall or just the spring, depending on where you come from. So that's the other piece is there is a little bit of an endurance factor there. It is a little bit more of a marathon, maybe compared to a high school season. So that spring season we like to use as a springboard going into the summer and just building good habits, moving into there, and then trying to improve coming back in the next season in the fall.
For sure. You probably also see big leaps of growth because, like you said, if they only have 3 months of their high school season where they're really doing golf, and then they're off the other 8-9 months, and now they're doing it much more year round, you'll probably see some headway in terms of their skill. So let's get into everybody's favorite segment, Raider Rapid Fire, because you're on the show for the third time.
Yeah, you're going to be running out.
It was way harder than I thought.
How many things are we going to touch on now? This is great.
But let's roll through it. Your first sports memory growing up could be something you did or just something you remember watching. What's that first thing you remember sports?
In my parents' house, I had an older brother. And unfortunately, for me, my dad is 6'6", and my brother's 6'5", 6'6", and I don't know how the heck I'm 6 feet tall, right? So blame my mom on that one. But growing up in my parents' bedroom, I would say that their room was probably, I don't know, they'll probably get on me about this, but maybe 15 feet across by 15 feet. Okay. And so they have their bed in there. And there was a Michael Jordan basketball hoop, or just a plastic one, right? And with where their bed was aligned, there was probably an 8 by 12 foot space, and we would just battle in there. we would just battle. Every night, every day, you name it. I spent a lot of hours in there, and it was cool because they had their dressers and stuff, right? So their dressers were around the room. And in the back left corner away from the hoop, it's that's where the 3-point line was.
For sure.
So it's you could run back to that spot, and so that was, we would battle in there a lot. And there's some, we busted some walls, some.
What's the age difference between you and your brother?
So he is 3 years older than me. So he was a senior in high school. I would have been a freshman. So
okay, so
3-4 years.
Not a ton of wins, I'm assuming, for you in the bedroom, or
well, I would say that. As I got old, you figured out for me, I was a smaller player. I learned how to finish, and I learned how to get creative and guard people. That really helped me as a player. So those were, there were some battles in there for sure. Like I said, broken walls and, stuff that my parents had on dressers, that stuff would get smashed. So yeah, that's, first sports memory. Those are the things that pop up in my head for sure.
For sure. All right. If you got done playing, you beat your brother, what's the go-to Gatorade color?
They make a white cherry.
Yep.
That's really good. Yep.
I remember when that hit the streets.
Yep.
I was skeptical at first, but
white cherry is pretty good. Yeah, that would be pretty low on the Super Bowl betting odds, too, of what gets poured on a coach.
Yeah.
Like, nobody ever says white.
Yeah, no.
Right? That would be a good...
Next year, that might
That'd
be
be
a
a
prop
good
we have to
change-up.
put out there.
That would be a good change-up.
Favorite golfer?
Ooh, favorite golfer. Man. So a couple times I have gotten to see the AmFam Championship over in Madison. So those are all the senior players.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So those are all the seniors. So like the obvious one is probably how I got into watching golf is Tiger Woods, right? But if I have to go off the board as far as like entertainment purposes and just a guy that you feel like you'd want to hang out with, Miguel Angel Jimenez.
Okay.
He just kind of strolls around,
For
just
sure.
kind of hits, has an occasional cigar on the course, which that's not what I'm advocating for here, but the guy just seems like he has a good time and just kind of goes out there and just plays golf.
Like a John Daly, but toned down just like a notch.
Yeah, right.
Or
Yeah. I mean, yeah, John would be, he would be on his own level.
Yeah.
But, Miguel, he just kind of seems to stroll around and just kind of play. So that seems fun to me.
For sure. Now, not to get too inside baseball here, but
Yeah.
look, apparel is a big part of golf.
Correct.
What would the fit be? If you were on the PGA Tour, is it polo? Is it hat? Are you rocking Sunday red? Are you doing all orange like Ricky?
Yeah, that's a good...
What's Coach Hurd's fit on the PGA Tour?
This is a good question. I mean, I have a lot of... let's just stick with the MSOE side of things. Just a really sharp black polo logo, gray slacks.
Okay.
That's looking good.
All right.
That's looking
Not
good.
too flashy.
Keep it clean. Yeah, you got to let your play do the talking, right? As much as,
right.
I would say for people who listen to this pod, I'm not going to go out there and explain my fashion sense too much. It's not that loud yet, but, pretty business forward and let your play do the talking, I would say.
Alrighty, excluding this podcast because I know you just listen to this till the cows come home.
Well, I'm on it so much, I have to listen to it.
You got to run the tape back. But what is your favorite podcast?
It's just I listen to a lot of Ryan Russillo's podcasts on The Ringer. I think he gives really insightful stuff about basketball. I don't think he's too over the top, so I listen to that as much as I can. And he also gets into stuff that's non-basketball related. He's a big history buff.
The travel vlogs.
Yeah, reads a lot of books and stuff like that. And so I enjoy listening to his stuff.
Gotta love that one. If you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, just one person. I'm not giving you 3 seats at the table. One person. Who is it?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, dead or alive. I mean, from past pods, like Anthony Bourdain is high on my list.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's no longer with us, so that would be my choice for that. Living person, Jerry Seinfeld would be great.
Okay.
I think that would be a good dinner guest. I just enjoy like his outlook on the world. Like he's constantly studying things because he talks about how he's a comedian, so he has to be very observant and kind of, I don't want to say judge everything, but like he has to focus on everything that he does because that's potential material for him. So I just think he sees the world in a different way. And plus, it'd probably be a fun dinner guest, I would say.
Yeah, great picks.
Definitely.
Picks. All right, just a couple more. The best album ever made is...
I'm old school. We got to do something and teach these kids about music nowadays.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Beatles, just pick an album. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I would say for them, the White Album is up there.
For sure.
I would say that's a really, really good one. So just off the top of my head, that's what I would go with. If
you have While My Guitar Gently Weeps on your album, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, they're doing really good things. Like I said, we got to teach these kids about music here. So yeah, the Beatles, pick any of them, but I'll take the White Album.
And our last one before we get back into things, your favorite TV show to binge.
Oh, we've talked about it on here before, but Peaky Blinders is up there for me.
For sure.
Parts Unknown with Anthony Bourdain is good to just throw on when you're not doing anything. So it's usually a tough call between those two.
For sure. Let's get back into things here. Back on topic. Emily Ellsworth and Mackenzie Renish are the only upperclassmen on the squad this year. Talk a little bit about how they've grown in the program since joining it from the onset. They were, founding members, if you will.
Right, yeah. So Emily joined the program the second semester of the first year. Okay. So I think it was a situation where we started the program in the fall. And then a semester went by, and then it was, hey, we have golf here? And
Yeah.
then we added, I believe in that one semester, we added 4 or 5 players at that time. So you could say, yeah, she's been from the beginning. Mackenzie's certainly been from the beginning. And with golf, what's been really fun to see with them is they really want to get better. And that's a huge part of golf. Golf can be really frustrating if you want instant gratification and instant success. It can be really frustrating. And so with them, they really love to play. And from Mackenzie was one of the first players that we had. And I remember those tournaments. We only had 2 golfers, so we were just driving, the 3 of us going to events. And so, but just watching them, they love to play. They love to work on their game. And when you do that with golf, you're going to see yourself improve. And they have. Maybe when we were starting out, numbers were in the 120s, and now we're getting into 90s, more consistently. Like, that's a big jump. And the rest of their golf journey after their career here at MSOE, they're going to continue to play golf, and they're going to find out that now that jump is a little bit smaller, right? It's a lot easier to go from shooting 100 to go to 90, but now to go to 90 to 80, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just extremely pleased with how they've been, and they show up all the time, and they're excited to play, and they enjoy their teammates. And so it's been fun to watch them improve over a couple of years.
For sure. And now the other side of that coin, you have 4 freshmen joining the squad this year. What is a goal for a freshman in their first season? We know how hard it is in a team sport like a basketball, like a lacrosse, for a young player to make an immediate impact. But we've talked, this is also a very individual-based sport. So maybe, I guess, the better way to phrase the question is, what would you be looking for in a freshman golfer?
Right. And, you're talking about freshmen here. We have 2 sophomores, too, that came in right away and had a lot of success, and they've been really good examples for those 4 freshmen that we have. Emma and Annika, they're both sophomores for us, and they come every day ready to go, and they've improved, and I hope to see them make another jump to being some of the better golfers in our conference. And so when you have those 2 with 4 freshmen, we've brought in 4 freshmen this year that, like I mentioned before, golf is a black and white game. It's kind of, what are you shooting? What do you expect to shoot? And so I think adding those 4 over the course of our time as a program here, when we first started, it was golfers with not a lot of golf experience. And so the evolution of our program to building it is you have to bring in more golfers that have a lot more experience, right? And I would say starting with that sophomore class that I mentioned, and now these freshmen, they've been playing high school golf all 4 years. And then before that, we're getting to the point where we're adding more experienced golfers. And so your question is about the freshmen. I think all 4 of the ladies that we have, they've had a lot of experience with golf. And I think that's reflective in their scores. We took a big jump in terms of conference and where we finished, adding them to our program. And I think that's reflected on the results of our meets and the stats. Like, they have done a great job of just coming in and just working really hard, and there's been good results with that so far. And I think there's a lot more potential to get better too, which is exciting.
For sure. Like you said, the results speak for themselves. Talk to me a little bit again. I know we touched on it earlier, but your role during a tournament or an event, how vocal are you? How often are you trying to help and give pointers, and how much do you just need to step back and let the athlete go?
I drop them off at hole 1, and then I park on 18 and wait for them. No, some meets, that's how it goes. But what's unique about golf is every player has routines. Every player adjusts differently to different things. Some people want feedback, others don't. I think in order to be a successful golfer, you have to be able to coach yourself. You have to self-correct, because as much as I would love to watch every shot that every player hits on a course, I just can't do that. And so you have to be able to assess yourself and figure out, okay, that was a good shot. What did I do there? Hey, that was not a great shot, right? What do I think I need to change? Or all the stuff we talked about before. What was my lie like? Was I did I misread something? All that type of stuff. And so we talk about that and we work on that stuff during practice. So to directly answer your question, I mean, how vocal am I? I think it just depends on who's playing and where they're at. Do I try to help and give pointers? Certainly in practice, you're trying to work on stuff. You're taking video of swings, compare this swing to that swing. All right, this one went better than this one. Maybe let's look at this. But it really varies from meet to meet. Some people like the conversation during golf. Some people don't. They just want to lock in and doing what they're and do what they do. So my job as a coach is, we're talking comparing differences between basketball and golf, right? Basketball, very large team construct. Here's what we're doing on both ends of the floor. Here's what we want to do. In golf, I have to learn everybody's games and what they're good at, what they're not so good at. So if I'm coaching you, maybe I know that you hit the ball a long ways and 100 yards and in, you struggle. If we're on a par 5 and you hit the ball as far as you can, all right, let's get to this distance because I know you're good from there. But when I go and work with somebody else, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. So I have to learn everybody's games and just try to put them in a spot to be successful. But there is a little bit of caddying going out there. Hey, I think you should do this. And they certainly have the right to agree or disagree. And those are the decisions that you have to make.
For sure. And let's talk a little bit about inside golf. As a more casual fan, the practice element to me is where the disconnect begins. To me, you just go out on a Saturday, you shoot golf, you maybe go to the driving range. Right, that's about it. Yeah. So explain to a casual fan like me what a typical practice is like. How do you structure it? What are some skills you work on? What are the shots exactly you want to practice? Just take us behind the curtain.
Right. Well, you also got to remember student athlete, right? So, I mean, we love talking about athletics here, but all of our players are really academically inclined and focus on that part. So what I like to do just personally is we'll take small groups out to the course. In basketball, you have to have all 15 players there or whatever. In golf, we can go out in small groups, and I enjoy that because we talk about the relationship piece. You're working with kind of people in smaller groups, more one-on-one. So I enjoy that and learning just about all the players that we have and what they like, don't like, and learning their games and all that type of stuff. But a typical practice, I'd say I leave it up to the players, what they want to do. Luckily, our home course is Brown Deer, not too far from here, where Tiger Woods had his first professional event. So the GMO there. So luckily there we have driving range, chipping station, place to play out of the sand, putting green. So really, whatever it is that they want to work on, they can do those things. And so sometimes we have girls that hit exclusively on the range. Sometimes they go chip and putt. We try to incorporate drills in every spot that they're at if they want them. Because the other thing is potentially we only have a 2-hour window between classes. So we got to get out there. Now we have an hour and a half practice. All right, what do we want to focus on? And I think that's a lot better than, all right, everybody's done with class. We all go out at 4. How long do you guys want to stay out here? And, it's just a little bit more open-ended. So maybe it's not as focused. You don't get as much done because, we could stay out here for 3 hours and do whatever it is that we want. So I like the focused approach that we have. I think our girls appreciate that. And with golf, there's a lot of individuality to it within a team construct. So as far as practice goes, you have to trust what they feel like they need to work on and obviously trust the work that they're putting in.
When I had Coach Reed on the podcast, he talked about how important self-awareness is as an athlete. And I think with golf, that's, of the utmost. That's at the pinnacle right up there near the top, because if you're not aware of what's going on, you're kind of alone.
Right. And that we talk about all the stuff that you have to factor in golf. I mean, there could just be a day where, hey, my driver's just not cooperating with me. Yeah. And you either try to self-assess what you're doing, or maybe I just hit 3-wood from here. Hey, my 7-iron isn't cooperating with me today. Well, maybe I have to get to a distance where I'm hitting 8s or 9s. All that type of stuff. And so that stuff can change really on a daily basis, depending on how things are going. And so that's what's fun, right? I put fun in quotes, figuring out all that stuff. So
For sure. So before I get you out of here, let's just run down a little bit about this season. What are some of the courses you guys are playing on this season? And in your opinion, maybe what's the biggest test you guys have?
Yeah, so I had to bring my laptop in here to remember all the courses that we play because the rounds they start to just blend together here. But we've been fortunate to play at some really good courses, challenging courses. Obviously, Brown Deer's our home course, and there's some challenges to that. We've played Washington County outside of here in Milwaukee, and that was in the fall for our conference championship, and it was cold and it was damp and it wasn't fun being out there not playing golf
For sure.
And then what's really interesting is the week prior, so we did our fall conference championship split into 2 weekends at 2 different courses, and so Washington County this year was the second weekend, and like I mentioned, it was high 30s 40s, damp and windy, and then the weekend prior was in Rockford, Illinois. I think it was 75 and sunny. So
Right.
we were drinking a little bit more water on those days than the second weekend. So that's a really interesting contrast. But the courses that we've played, each has their own challenges, and I think overall with golf, like you're not seeing it at the courses we play, but in golf, what's the argument now? Is that hey, these players are hitting it a mile, we got to make the courses longer, right? So they're playing all these courses that the yardages are crazy, and we're not doing that at our level. But I think that attitude has kind of snuck in to players of I have to hit the ball as far as I possibly can, and that's my only strategy, right? And so to answer your question about what courses are the most difficult, I would say it's the courses that are a little bit more narrow, that are kind of in between distances where you got to make choices about what club do I try to go for it or do I try and lay it up? Like that's the fun part of golf that I really enjoy. And so, like I said, we're not, playing 600-yard par fives, right? But the strategy sometimes the default is just, well, I'm just going to hit it as far as I can. And sometimes if that works, great. But I think the courses that make us think a little bit usually are the most challenging. So there's a lot of courses that we've played. I mean, I'm looking at our schedule here for the past 2 years. I mean, in Wisconsin and Illinois, there's just a lot of them. And so, like I said, for me, they all kind of start to blend together. But that's kind of the general sense that I can give you.
For sure, Coach. Thank you again for joining us. If you want to share anything, what's on the horizon for Raider Golf, and how can people help support other than showing up on the fairways and giving a polite little clap?
Right. Yeah. Don't want to be too boisterous when you're cheering us on. No, I would say for us, like we talked about, kind of how our roster is constructed, and we're still a really young golf team, and we were fortunate to have really good results this fall at the conference championship. And so golf is a sport where the more you play, the better you get. And so when we have such a young team, that's the core of our team, really similar to our basketball team, which I've already been on here discussing, right? A lot of freshmen and sophomores. But for us, that's exciting for me because I think they all want to get better. They all enjoy playing, and they all enjoy each other. And good things usually happen when you have that mix. And so for us on the horizon, I'm just really excited to see how we improve and, just how to support us. Yeah, it'd be great to see people come out and just watch us play and see the things, that we do. And our schedule it's always challenging in the spring because weather is such a huge factor and courses being open. But, we'd love to see, people just support us, come out and see us play. I certainly wouldn't expect people to maybe follow us like a gallery for a whole, 4 hours playing an 18-hole round. But just to see, our ladies play and how they improve and how difficult golf can be and how they handle that. Like they've done a really excellent job and it's been really fun coaching them.
Well, best of luck to you this season, Coach, and thank you again for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Maybe I'll be back soon. We'll do this again.
We'll see. Thank you to Coach Hurd for taking the time to join us once again. He has been the guinea pig for this program, and we appreciate him greatly for that. Mark your calendars as coming up in April, Thursday, April 18th, is Giving Day here at MSOE. Once again, Thursday, April 18th. Mark your calendars. You can follow Raider Athletics on YouTube at MSOE Raider Athletics, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MSOE_Raiders. Don't forget to find us on Spotify too. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, repost, share, and get the word out to all your Raider friends and family. We want you to be heard. Mention us on social media and tell us what you want to hear about. Go Raiders!